So, some of you know that I like to cook, but that wasn't always the case. See, the thing is, there's one thing I like more than cooking, and that's eating. But the time came when the two of those things had to come together, right? I mean, to do the one, to do the eating, I had to learn to do the cooking. And because there were just a few things that I really like to eat, that I wanted to get, but I just couldn't go out to the local diner and find it. One of the things that I enjoyed most as a boy was biscuits and tomato gravy. That was a favorite for me growing up in the South. So my grandmother used to make biscuits and tomato gravy for me, and then my mother used to make them for me too. And then the trouble happened one day when I'd grown up and I moved on and I was raising a family on my own. My grandmother had died the year that Britton and I got married, and a little while later we found ourselves living in a town far from our childhood homes, and then one day the craving hit. I had to have biscuits and tomato gravy, but I'd never asked my grandmother how to make them. So I immediately telephoned my mom for backup, and all I got was the answering machine. So before voicemail. And I was quickly moving into crisis because the time had come for me to have biscuits and tomato gravy. Well, I suppose I had some choices. I could decide just to forget about the whole thing, but that didn't seem very satisfying. Or I suppose I could have just sat around and waited for my mother to call whenever she could get around to it so she could tell me everything I needed to do. But who knew when she was going to call me back? So I figured my other choice was I could do something about it. See, I was my grandmother's grandson, and I was certainly my mother's son. And they had taught me well, and they had shown me things to do and taught me my way around the kitchen a little bit. So if there was going to be biscuits and tomato gravy that night, I was going to have to make it happen. So, I started with all the basics, right? With the fresh tomatoes, some fresh whole milk, with some good gold medal flour, some salt, and some milk, and just about the right amount of baking grease. So I don't know how I knew how much bacon grease to use. I figure maybe I was just tapping into that teaching that I had when I was a boy. Maybe cashing in on my ancestry a little bit. But about 45 minutes later, after I really set my mind to it and got things started, my family had biscuits and tomato gravy, and it was delicious. And I have to wonder, if my grandmother were alive and well today and still with me mixing up those biscuits and tomato gravy, would I have ever really learned to do it on my own? Or what if I had just said, no problem, Mom will handle that one for me? Would I have ever discovered that I too have a little bit of that grace for turning out those meals that were so special to me as a boy? The fact is I'd never done it before, and I doubt if I'd ever would have thought to give it a try in the presence of the masters. So, in a way, the one thing missing in the kitchen wasn't the right ingredients. It wasn't some basic or innate sense of know-how. It was just the necessity to make it happen and the will to get it done. When it became clear to me that it was important to make the meal, and when I decided that if it was to get done, I was the one that was going to have to do it, I discovered a lot about myself that I never knew that I had in me. Maybe I discovered those things because I never had to before. So, it makes me wonder, why does Jesus ascend into heaven? Why does he leave so soon, right after he had conquered death and risen from the dead on that Easter Sunday? When I think about Jesus' ascension, what must have appeared first of all to the apostles as a one-way ticket for him to go to heaven, I think it's important not to focus so much on the fact that he left, but really to think about what it is that he left behind. Now, the Acts of the Apostles tells us that there was a good-sized community of Jesus' followers, a community of faith that had already gathered in Jerusalem. So they were spending their time, remembering the stories about their friend. They were spending their time together and they were praying. They remembered what they had seen in Jesus and what it was that he had taught them. So it appears to me that what Jesus really left behind was all those good ingredients for the church. The body upon earth, here to carry out the mission, and share the good news of the love of God with all people. He built that community of love, and he left it with his teaching. And he told them that he'd help them. He'd help them have everything that they would need in order to get on with the things that he had asked them to do and to build up his church. The only ingredient missing was, the necessity to make it happen and the will to take it on and to get it done. And I wonder, would those apostles ever really have taken the lead if they remained always in the presence of the Master? Would they have felt the same sense of necessity, that same understanding that if it was going to get done, they were the ones that were going to have to do it? Would they have ever discovered the grace and the power that God had already placed within them that would aid them in their mission? And then I think, maybe not. Not if Jesus was just going to hang around forever and take care of everything for them all the time. I think God gives us the strength and the grace to lead faithful lives, even if that strength and grace sometimes just seems to remain hidden within us until a time where we really have to use it for ourselves. Jesus can't do everything for us either, and I have to trust that he knows what he's doing and that things in this life, some challenge or some grief, some deep sense of gratitude, some extraordinary need or joy will open that place within us where God dwells already. And we'll have that realization that Jesus never really entirely left us in the first place. He's still present, empowering us, guiding us along the way. So Jesus didn't leave us behind with nothing. He ascended to heaven, yes, but he showed us how to be good on this earth, how to love one another, how to be his church. And he gave us one another. And his Spirit is with us. No, he's not standing there telling us how to do each and everything. We'll have to take some chances. We'll have to make some choices on our own, maybe make some mistakes along the way. There's no one singular recipe for making the perfect Christian life. But Jesus did leave us all the ingredients. And when we make that effort to put all those ingredients together, who knows, by the grace of God, maybe we'll just make something really good on our own. Thanks, Grandma.